So welcome to my top 10 Neo Geo games of all time. And I really love being able to come in and talk about the Neo Geo any single chance I get. And also to be able to dress as Terry Bogard. I know I have a problem, but I love this machine. I love the characters they created back then. They're still living with us up to today. And I really want to come in and relive some of those memories of the arcades and seeing that red, amazing arcade machine and playing it for the first time and going, what the heck is this? This is amazing. And then month after month, new games would come circling into the arcades and everyone was a major event. And let me just say that this is my top 10 list of all time. It does not reflect your top 10 list. It's just some games that really meant a lot to me that I've really enjoyed. Some of them I own. Some of them I will never be able to afford because they're so ridiculously expensive. Neo Geo collecting is through the stratosphere for collectors. And I know a lot of people out there have complete collections. I salute you. I am somebody who does not. I'm just somebody who was in the arcades, as I say, and had a great time. So let's start at number 10. And this was a game that I played on the NES, and I really liked it. I used to play with my dad. It was called Baseball Stars. And it reminds me of walking into my local arcade and seeing that Neo Geo arcade machine set up, and I'm like, what is this? And then all of a sudden, I saw the opening to Baseball Stars, this game right here. And I want to say that Baseball Stars 2 is a better game, but a lot of these I'm going to say that it was the first experience I had with it. It had a real big impact, like seeing the size of the characters on the screen, the animation. It really looked like a cartoon come to real life, but with such a great style and flair to it that only the Neo Geo had in its level of design, aesthetics, and I was just blown away. And when I finally got a Neo Geo home console, and I got this game for $25 back then, used, can you believe it? I would play all the time with my friends. We would play it all summer long, and we loved it because we were getting the Neo Geo graphics at home. And it was beyond that NES game that I had originally played. And this game has a very special place in my heart. As I say, the very first time I saw the opening animation, I was blown away. I could not believe what the Neo Geo could do. And it was my first chance at seeing the Neo Geo and seeing what this new arcade machine was going to be about in my arcade. It was amazing. Really great stuff. Now, at the same arcade, at the same kiosk, was another game. There was 4 games on this machine. I was so blown away with this machine, especially when I selected the next game and I see Magician Lord come on the screen. And you play as a magician. It's a side view action platforming game. But the real big deal here is that you change into different creatures and different characters with different abilities. And I finally was able to get this for my home console as well. Again, I got this for like $35 used. You'd never find that the same way again. I think I got this in the year, 1999. What a great game. And I played the hell out of it at home. I played the ever-living crap out of it in the arcade. And I remember just marveling at the graphics. And I put my ear to the speaker and I could hear the soundtrack. I fell in love with that. Magician Lord at number 9 definitely deserves it. What a really good looking, wonderfully playing game. They were working on a sequel, but it never really happened. Now, this was a game that I saw in arcades and I had to try out, and I again fell in love with it. It was that cartoony aesthetic look that the Neo Geo could pull off with its sprites, and I couldn't believe it. Like, there's the Super Nintendo, there's the Genesis, but the Neo Geo was able to do stuff with its graphics that were like, wow, you'd say, look at the size of the characters on the screen. Look at the animation. It was a sight to behold. And when I was playing Spin Masters, I was just in awe. I thought the Japanese are doing a kind of their take on an American kind of design, but making it their own. And I just loved using all your different weapons, the yo-yo, the shurikens. It was really great. And a couple of years ago, I sat down and played the arcade game with my wife right here. And we had a really, really good time visiting that game for sure. At number 7, I think I was 15 to 16 years old when I first saw this game. I walked into a local arcade. I was skipping school for the afternoon with my girlfriend at the time. And I was like, what's this? Is this a new fighting game? Because I had seen Fatal Fury at that time, and I thought that was a pretty okay game. You know, I was playing Street Fighter, and I saw Fatal Fury, and I was like, okay, that's okay. And then I saw World Heroes right here. I finally was able to pick up the home console version, but as I say, I originally saw it this day at the arcade, and I was like, oh my god, what is this all about? And it was different fighters from different time periods fighting each other. My main characters to use were Fuma and Hanzo. I love them. There was Rasputin in the game. There was kind of a Bruce Lee style of character. There was kind of even a Hulk Hogan style of character. Unbelievable stuff. And I love this game. I loved playing it. I felt that I could easily do combos, so I could go in with a knee, do a hard kick into like a shuriken style of move, and there was also different levels of shuriken style of moves you could do with your main characters Hanzo and Fuma. I love this game. I thought it was great, and I love the bonus levels. There were some bonus levels in the game where there'd be a big rock formation and you'd beat the hell out of it and you'd turn it into like a muscular guy character standing there. It was ridiculous. It was so stupid, but I loved it. And I played all of the World Heroes games after that. I loved World Heroes 2, and then we went into World Heroes Perfect. This was a perfect game for me. And I picked the first game because it had such an impact on me when I first saw it, and I was like, it was kind of the alternative to Street Fighter. And it was at this point that the Neo Geo was really carving its way into doing its real own unique fighting games. At number 6 was a dream game for me. It still is to this day. When I think about this game, I was so amazed that Neo Geo, SNK, was combining some of its fighting game series into one, plus including other characters from different franchises. And I first saw it in a Famitsu magazine. That's a Japanese style of magazine that covers video games in Japan. They covered Neo Geo, Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, all that kinds of stuff. And they unveiled it. That was the first place I saw the King of Fighters 94. And obviously there's been so many King of Fighters games over the years. All of them have their merits. But that first game, I was like, oh my god, we got, Terry Bogard and, going against the Art of Fighting team. I was like, what? And you could pick 3 sets of characters. The funny thing is, later on in the series, you could pick and choose who you wanted in your group, but at this time they were fixed groups. But I was just so happy to have Terry Bogard, Andy was in there, we had Joe Higashi, and I love the team rosters, and Athena was in there. The one thing I also want to say is, I really loved the backgrounds of this game, because every single stage it would start and pan down at times, and that was, I know, nowadays you'd be like, who cares? But back then it was a really, really big deal, and it was so cool to combine all of these different characters from the SNK world into what was a huge event, the King of Fighters. And obviously, as I say, this continued on for years to come. But it all started in 1994, and I was there. I saw it in the Famitsu magazine. I was like, oh my god, I got to get this game. But I'm like, I can't afford $350 for one game. But hey, I dreamt about it, and years later, I was able to get this copy for really cheap. At number 5 is a bittersweet memory. It's a really unusual one. I've talked about it on the show before, where I was in Hawaii in the very early 90s. I went into an arcade on my own, and I'm sitting there playing some games, and then all of a sudden I looked, and there was the most incredible game I had ever seen. Coming off Street Fighter and all these fighting games, I saw what was a brand new fighting game that was introducing some new play mechanics in the way of swords and weapons. And that was Samurai Shodown, also known as Samurai Spirits in Japan. And I just marveled at this game. I loved the main character, Harumaru. I loved all the other characters. There was Earthquake, the huge character. And it was so cool because the characters would scroll, in and out as you went more into the screen or more out of the screen. I loved that. As you got closer to each other's characters, I thought it was amazing. They did that in Art of Fighting, but I was really liking it in this brand new sword weapon-based game. And how I say it was bittersweet, I saw this game, I was playing it, and then all of a sudden, the entire arcade was swarmed by these little gangster guys, but there were so many of them, and they were bullying kids and stealing their money and before I knew it, I was surrounded by them. And I was like, God damn it, I just wanted to play Samurai Shodown. And I was able to talk my way out of getting into a fight with about 15 of these guys. But it was a very funny moment, that's for sure. And I remember I got back to the hotel room and all I could do was draw Samurai Shodown. And I was like, oh my God. And this is before I had the home console, AES home console. And so I just was like trying to add up how many times I would have to mow the lawn to buy the Samurai Shodown and the home console. I realized it was unobtainable and that would never happen. But, you know, years later, again, I would get a home console version of it. And boy, oh boy, was I ever happy to get that. What a great game. The blood in that game, the characters. And I obviously, one of my favorites is Samurai Shodown 2. But I gotta give it to Samurai Spirits 1. This game just blew my mind when it first came out. At number 4, I had to mention this series, of course, and I'm not gonna mention 1, I'm not gonna mention 2, I'm gonna mention 3. Metal Slug 3, and I don't own this game, it's very, very expensive, but I remember walking into an arcade with my friend, at the time he was called Satan, and my friend Rob, and we walked in to this arcade and we saw Metal Slug 3. And there was something about, I love Metal Slug 1, but there was something about Metal Slug 3 where you're kind of running onto the shore at the beginning of the ocean, and they're just the destruction around you, the giant mutated crabs, and just the animation was so incredible. I still think to this day that Metal Slug is some of the best animation pixel-wise in a video game. The attention to detail and animation is second to none. I've marveled at it, and I was capturing footage for this off my Nintendo Switch because you can get a lot of these games on the Nintendo Switch, and I was capturing footage and I was just sitting there going, I can't believe it's all these years later and the game still holds up so well. You just don't see games like this made anymore. Not the same way, with the detail, with the character designs, the monster designs, you know, the German characters and all that. It was great, and all the special power-up weapons. Metal Slug is a great series, but number 3 is where it shined the most for me. At number 3, there was a number 1 in this series, and I really like the first game a lot. That's Shock Troopers. But Shock Troopers 2 blew my mind. Seeing this in a local mall here in Vancouver, and I looked at the screen, I was like, this is just up my alley. I mean, I think it was at this point that the Neo Geo and SNK in general were firing on all cylinders. This game had great character designs, great overhead action. I mean, you could hold the button down and just shoot any single way and hold that. You had grenades to launch, you had tanks to get in, all from an overhead viewpoint. Animation in this game was so great, was so amazing. And when you get to a boss character, it'd give you a full bio on the boss character, then it'd be full on in. Obviously 2-player game, like a lot of the Neo Geo games were. I absolutely adored this game, and a game, again, that is so far out of my price range. I can only play it on home consoles nowadays, you know, or through emulation or through the Nintendo Switch. That's the way I'm going to play this game, not on the original hardware. The game is astronomical in price as well, like a lot of Neo Geo games. But this is at the time when I looked at the Neo Geo and I was like, I don't know how you can push the hardware anymore. I don't know how you could do it, because they were doing it so very well. And Shock Troopers is a game you honestly have to try with a friend just for the pure fun of it. Now at number 2 is the number 7 in the series for Fatal Fury, Real Bout 2. Now I at this point had kind of fallen out of my fancy for the Neo Geo and fighting games, because it was just, at this point there was so many going on, and I still like them all, but I was just like, oh my god, there's so much going on. So I'd walk into an arcade, it was just like Neo Geo fighters everywhere, and usually I was always playing the next Street Fighter, but so much love for the Neo Geo fighters as well. And then I saw this game, I was like, oh my god, Real Bout 2? What? Like Fatal Fury? Is this like another one in the series? Yes, it is. And I think it's the best one in the series. It has some of the best animation, the best realizations of these character designs from the past. I'm bringing back a whole bunch of characters from the very first one. I love this game, and I marveled at it, and I think it's up there as one of the best fighting games on the Neo Geo. And it's very, I found to go back and play this game recently, it has a really nice flow to it. Especially for me using Terry Bogard, I could just flow, doing slide kicks into your power attacks. It was just so amazing, and I just liked all of the character designs, the look of it, the backgrounds were unbelievable. Hey, I think you get it at this point. The Neo Geo was doing well at this point, and it was the end of the Neo Geo cycle, pretty much, and it was ending with a bang. And that leads us into my number one Neo Geo game of all time, my favorite. And realistically, I first played this game on the Dreamcast, a Dreamcast port of it, which is a very good port of it, by the way. I played it in the arcades as well, but I played it mostly on the Dreamcast. And that's where I discovered my love for this game. And I declare this game the best fighting game on the Neo Geo, and one of the best, as I say, Neo Geo games. Mark of the Wolves. This is incredible, unreal. I've talked about a lot of these games having great animation. This game has the best animation, especially with an older Terry Bogard, raising rock after Geese Howard has died. It's a different generation. It's in the future a little bit more, and Terry Bogard is not wearing what I'm wearing right now. He's just wearing kind of like a brown leather jacket. He has his yellow, kind of blondish hair out, and it's so great. It's so great. It's so much more of a mature Fatal Fury style of game, and I just absolutely adore it. I love every character design. I love all the backgrounds. I love the music. I love the movesets. I had a lot of fun playing this game. And of all Neo Geo games, if I could ever own one, it would be Mark of the Wolves. And I've gone onto eBay and looked, and I was just like, get out of town. It's not happening. But that's okay, because Mark of the Wolves is here in my heart. It's also on the Nintendo Switch. That's another place I have it. I also have it on PS4. I play it on there quite a bit. I absolutely love the Neo Geo. I love all of the games. All of them. I like King of the Monsters. I could go on and on. I didn't even touch on the Art of Fighting series. I kind of did, in that it's in some of these series, like the King of Fighters. There's so much to love on the Neo Geo. It's one of those machines. It's, for me, doing the show at this point, it's been 11 years. I did one of the very first Neo Geo reviews ever on YouTube back 11 years ago, and I'm here 11 years later, and I'm still talking about it, and there's so many of you who are still talking about it and still loving the machine. It's a testament of that machine and of that time period that the games kind of surpass a certain time period. They haven't faded. They keep on coming back. And I know it's frustrating having to rebuy them on all these consoles. I've done it the same. It's frustrated me, but in a way, I'm happy that different generations are getting to experience the Neo Geo, and what I got to experience when I was a younger guy in that arcade and marveling at that flashing screen, looking down and seeing Magician Lord and seeing Fatal Fury a couple months later come out. It was pure magic for me back then. It's pure magic for me now. I was happy to come in here and share some of my top 10 Neo Geo games of all time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So anyways, guys, until next time.